Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Oh, I know there's more people in here. Let's try it again. I know it's cold outside. I know the Steelers are losing at 7-21 Buffalo, just in case you were wondering. But let me try it one more time. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rediscovering Hope, a dinner and community celebration to honor the life, legacy, and birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In preparation for tonight's festivities, as your mistress of ceremonies, I spent some time rediscovering what I remember most about the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. As I have aged, what I seem to think about most often is what I have yet to discover. I know that he graduated from Morehouse College, which is a historically Black college, at the age of 19. I can reference my favorite Dr. King quotes on command, like the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. For example, I am well aware of the ways that he transformed history as one of the formidable figures of the civil rights movement. I know he was a central organizer in the Montgomery bus boycotts, and I know that he was subject to federal investigation throughout his life and was even stabbed on occasion. But these days, what I am most curious about is what I don't fully know about Dr. King. The information that is mostly not referenced in our history books. I often wonder what he was like as a child, how he became committed to this selfless work. I wonder what he was like as a college student at Morehouse, if he went to parties, if he was popular, if he ever questioned the value of his education as a young Black boy in the mid-1940s. And I wonder how he was as a husband and father. Did he change diapers? Did he sing lullabies? Did he take Coretta out on date nights and ensure that their marriage remained fresh? And even as an individual, what was he fearful of? What got on his nerves? And how did he persist when most of the country disagreed with his perspectives? I often sit in amazement at the fact that when Dr. King was only 39 years old, he departed this earth and met eternal peace. Reflect with me for a second. When you were 39, were you leading a nation? Were you a national figure whose every move was being critiqued and analyzed? And for those of us who have yet to reach that milestone birthday, what do you hope to do by 39? How will you make your mark? What will be your impact? And what would happen if you never got a chance to see 40? We treat Dr. King as if he was superhuman, completely separated from the trials and tribulations that us mortals regularly experience. And we often lose sight of the fact that he was a man with many other identities and perspectives, hopes and dreams, many of which we may never know. So tonight, I think it's important for us to do something that I didn't ask you all to do last year as mistress of ceremonies. I think that the man of the hour, Dr. King, the legend that we know, and the man that we will continue to learn at this time, deserves a very thunderous round of applause. And I just realized that I failed to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. Hi. It's nice to meet you. Heather Moore Roberson. I have the privilege and the honor of serving as your mistress of ceremonies tonight and representing this great institution where we are all currently located, that is Allegheny College. I'm certain that tonight will be a memorable community celebration full of joy, laughter, food, and meaningful reflection. So let us begin. We will follow the order of your program, which is listed in your booklets at your place setting. And I would like to ask Dr. Ron Cole, president of Allegheny College, to come and offer a few words of welcome at this celebratory occasion. President Cole.
Thank you, Dr. Heather Moore Roberson. Welcome everybody to Allegheny College. I feel humbled and privileged to welcome you this evening to this celebration in the honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now, over the holiday season, ironically, I've been reflecting on hope. And I was excited to know that the theme of this dinner tonight was rediscovering hope. I find hope in Dr. Heather Moore Roberson. Give her a hand. And I've rediscovered hope all across this campus, all across this community, and in other places I've been to over the last several months. And I found that hope inspires the imagination. And I'm not the only one who's thought that. And as I thought about this upcoming dinner, I realized that what we're doing here in this community, in Meadville and at Allegheny, to advance education, to advance equity, to advance inclusion, all of which I believe in as part of a just society. All of these give me hope, inspires my imagination, and I hope that this will inspire imaginations to come for whom we do this work. Those younger than 39 or older than 39. My heartfelt thanks to all who are involved in giving me hope and inspiring my imagination for the future. And again, I hope that this transpires for generations to come as we continue to work to make this community better. Thank you, and once again, welcome to Allegheny College.
Thank you, President Cole. Next, I'd like to ask the mayor, Mayor Jamie Kinder, to come to the podium and offer some remarks on behalf of the city of Meadville.
Good evening, everybody, my friends. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. This is one of my most favorite events, right? To get to celebrate with such a great group of people, with such a great group of change makers, right, in my community, on the birthday of someone without whom I wouldn't be standing here, right? Without the changes and the hope that he made in our country, in my community, I wouldn't get to speak to you the way I would, right? And I would most definitely almost have been a crime, right? Being of mixed race. So I'm here to say greetings, and I'm so happy to be here, and we're happy to hold this, and we're happy to have this one event each year in my city, right? And we're happy to have the partners we have in the college and within our city, right, that again are doing the work. But I like to always reflect on what this day really means, right? Because this is one celebration that we have, right? In Erie, they have a whole day of marches, but it's one day that we're celebrating. And like Dr. Roberson had said, right, at 39, I didn't even have the confidence to get up and talk in front of people. At 39, I didn't have the ability to understand that I was worth something, right? At 39, I was hopeless, right? So because of people in this room, that has all changed. Because of people in this room who gave me hope, who saw who I was. I'm getting a call. Sorry. I'm able to speak to you and be able to convey my hope for this town, be able to work in service to you in this town, making the place better and making it so people can find their joy. I was reflecting myself on Dr. King and his work, and realized that what we're doing in Meadville is something that he reflected on often. He reflected on the three evils, right? He reflected on poverty, right? He reflected on, I had my notes up till somebody called. Poverty, racism, and violence. Those are the three evils that he often reflected on, and that's what we're doing here in Meadville, right? We don't have too much violence because we have a pretty cool city manager and a great police force, right? We don't have, well, we have racism, but we're working on it. We're a work in progress. And we are working on poverty, right? We're creating equity in this town, and we're seeing people for who they are. We're understanding that second chances, right, are important. I'm looking at youngs and youngs here, right? And there's a quote that stood by me, and this is what I hope to live by, and this is what I hope Meadville gets to. Just that our job in this life is to love others without stopping to inquire whether they're worthy, right? If you think about that, to stop and inquire whether they're worthy, because everyone breathing is worthy, right? We're all worthy here, regardless of where we are. We're all worthy here, regardless of what mistakes we've made. So with that, I hope that everybody can live by that. Everybody can work in service like Dr. King, right? Everybody can be a better person this year than they were last year. And everybody can, you know, get on the bus when we're working to make it so everybody can afford a place to live, and we're working to create equity where there was none, and we're working to create wealth where there was none, right? So hopefully with you guys' help, we'll move faster, we'll move farther. And with that, I'm gonna read the city's proclamation. Can't see with my glasses on. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was an activist, a clergyman, a prominent leader, and a devoted humanitarian. And whereas the movement and marches he led brought significant change in the fabric of American life through his courage and selfless devotion. And whereas Dr. King knew better than most people that the peace of the world depends on the rights and privileges granted to all persons. And whereas it is important to not just remember the message that Dr. King promoted, but to commit ourselves to being living examples of it. And whereas the city of Meadville wishes to honor the memory of this true American. Now, therefore, I, Jamie Kinder, Mayor of the City of Meadville, on behalf of all council members, staff, and residents of the City of Meadville, would like to remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for his commitment to civil rights and to express our community's respect for the contributions of this great man. So with that, let us live up to his legacy. Let us do better each year, and let us remember that every single person alive and breathing is worthy of our love and our devotion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kinder. Next, I would like to ask Dr. Jennifer Galdon to come up to represent and offer words of reflection from the Crawford Central School District.
Good evening. I am Jennifer Galdon. I will be replacing Dr. Washington in the next month as the superintendent of schools. Where is she? Congratulations. Thank you. So Dr. Dixon asked me to just say a few short words. I told her I was not going to give a whole speech up here. But first of all, thank you very much for the invitation again to attend this dinner. I wanted to say that I am hopeful, as is our theme, and intentionally hopeful to strengthen the relationships in the community and within our school district. As I look around, I see a lot of role models, teachers in our district, community members, leaders, peer mentors, and youth. And I encourage you to persist in working with our children and our young adults to provide a positive future for our community. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the rest of the evening.
Thank you, Dr. Galdone. And now we will have a musical selection by Tracy Balsamo. Tracy, did I say your last name correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's get ready to open our ears and our minds to this amazing musical selection.
Before we play, I'd like to introduce to you Hope for the Future. This is my student, Brooke Hogerl. She is a student at Sagertown High School, and she's been studying violin with me the past 3 years.
Tracy, can you tell me the name of the student again?
Brooke Hogerl.
So anyone who knows me knows I have a soft spot for students. So can y'all give it up for Tracy and Brooke again, please? It takes a lot of courage to come up here, but also as a young person, it definitely takes a lot of courage. So I wanted to make sure that Brooke got her shout out. All right. I know y'all hungry. I hear your stomachs from up here. There is only one person that stands between us and dinner. It is the person who is offering the invocation tonight. It's Pastor Sylvia Reed. So Pastor Reed, if you can come up. Praise him. Right now.
No pressure, right? Shall we stand to our feet in reverence of God and in honor of Dr. King? Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, first of all, we want to thank you for the life and legacy of Dr. King. As his creator, we are eternally indebted to you for gracing us with such a force of nature that gave his life, that all may walk in freedom and justice. Thank you, Lord, for Dr. King. And may the spark of hope that was birthed in his belly continue to be a flame that lights the way to freedom through the darkness of sin and racism. I ask you, Lord, to bless this food that we are about to consume, and may any strength we gained from it be used to further the vision of Dr. King that he received from you. These things we do pray. These things we do believe. These things we do receive. Amen.
Amen.
So we will move forward with our program. We will have another selection by Tracy and Brooke. And then we will move forward and ask Reverend Burnett to, oh, all right, y'all ready? Okay. To recite the I Have a Dream speech, all right? So Tracy and Brooke, and then Reverend Burnett, it's on you.
Praise the Lord, everyone. I greet you all in the precious and the matchless name of Jesus, and I'm so honored to be here honoring this great man, Dr. Martin Luther King, and I'm so thankful to see so many have come out to celebrate this day. Now, right before I begin my assignment, I do want to just recognize my family. So, my wife, Deborah, of 45 years, could you just raise your hand? And 4 of our 5 children, Marvin Jr. and his son, Morel, Stacy and her husband, Sean, Mardina and her daughter, Amira, and Cher. Also would like to recognize my sister, Melissa, who is an intricate part of this community, and my brother, Marshall, also known as Ike, who is a retired teacher and former head coach of the Franklin Knights, I believe, in Franklin. And to my pastor, senior pastor at United Faith Fellowship, Reverend Sylvia Reed, who last year she just came in from California. That was her first time. Tonight will be her second time, and she is a wonderful woman of God, and she's going to be a very intricate part of this community. So keep your eyes on her. And to all the rest of my church family, just wave your hand. I was at the tender age of 16 when Dr. King did his speech. Now, although I wasn't able to be there, when I heard his speech, it just really just blessed me and touched me, because he just felt like to me that he was truly a prophet sent from God. And so, as we say, I followed him as he followed God. And I have to admit that at first I did not embrace his nonviolent principles, because I didn't like to be pushed around. And I used to fight. And when he said, where were you at the age of 39, I was probably in jail. But I'm so happy tonight to be here and to express just how much that speech meant to me. And I look around and I see a lot of younger people. And like I say, I was 16, so 60 years ago is when I first was introduced to this speech. And then tonight, as we remember what he said and done, I'm asking you to just take your eyes off of the messenger, me, and just really focus on what he said and just let it get down into your hearts and minds, because I don't know about you, but I don't ever want to go back to where it was. And I hope that you don't. And if we continue to work together and treat each other right, then we will move forward, because I know we have really already overcome. We're just waiting for the manifestation. So as I can remember watching later on Dr. King and all the freedom fighters marching toward the Lincoln Memorial, singing, "We shall overcome one day." Then Dr. King stepped up on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and he began by saying, "I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself an exile in his own land. And so we come here today to dramatize a shameful situation. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of this great republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which all Americans were to fall heir. This note was the promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is very obvious today that America has defaulted on that promissory note insofar as her citizens of colors are concerned. Instead of honoring that sacred obligation, America has handed the Negro a bad check, a check that has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there's insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity in our nation. And so we have come here today to cash this check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hollow spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all God's children. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands and make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for Americans to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and justice. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. And those who hoped that the Negro needed to blow off steam and now will be content will be in for a rude awakening if this nation returns to business as usual. There will neither be rest or tranquility in America until the Negro is guaranteed his citizenship right. The whirlwind of revolt will continue to rock the foundation of this nation until that bright day of justice emerges. But there's something I must say to my people who stand at the warm threshold that leads into the palace of justice. In the process of us gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deed. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. And the marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, they have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. And they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must forever make the pledge that we will always march forward. We cannot look back. There are those asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highway or the hotels of the city. We cannot be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for white only. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here today out of great trials and tribulation. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from area where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the sea of despair. Oh, I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths self-evident, that all men are created equal. Oh, I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day grow up in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the contents of their characters. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with this vicious racist, with this governor having his lip dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discourse of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. And this will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my father died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring." And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California, but not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill in Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last.
Y'all can do better than that. Give that up for Reverend Burnett. That is one of the special moments in the MLK celebration that every year Reverend Burnett has done that for us, so we're so appreciative of him doing it yet again. And I don't know, you have a sound memory and a sound mind to be able to do that every year, so kudos to Reverend Burnett. Next, I'd like to ask Reverend Jackie Roberson Jr. to come up and introduce our speakers tonight. And I'm biased, but I'm looking forward to hearing the words from the good Reverend Jackie Roberson. Give it up for her.
Can we give it up for our Mistress of Ceremonies, Dean Roberson? Isn't she beautiful tonight? Oh, come on, help me give her some. She's so beautiful. I am so grateful to see you all. Listen, I like all of y'all to give yourselves a round of applause for being here tonight. It's cold. It's a good game on tonight that someone is losing, but we're not going to go there right now. But just glad to see you all here tonight. We have some very dynamic speakers, and if you go to your program, you'll see some of those speakers in which we have on tonight. It is my pleasure to introduce one of our speakers. We have 4 on tonight, but also, before we do that, I really want to give it up for Reverend Burnett. He did a phenomenal job, and he does a phenomenal job every year. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I have the distinct honor and privilege to introduce one of our Meadville area middle school students, and that's none other than Arlen Rain. It is my pleasure, Arlen Rain, my apologies, and I'm looking at it too. It is my pleasure to introduce Arlen Rain Jordan. She is a speaker from the Meadville area middle school where Mr. John Fry is principal. I believe I saw Mr. John Fry in the house. Give him a hand, he's over there. Mrs. Arlen Rain is a 8th grade student. She entered the MLK mentoring program in the 7th grade. She is on the student council, and she is an honor roll student. Her leadership skills are outstanding. She loves outdoor activities, and she enjoys service learning. Learning is exciting for her. She always wants to understand various fields of study. She is interested in the career of business. Joining her tonight is none other than her wonderful mother, which she works so very hard. Give it up for Sasha Jordan. I have a special place in my heart for single parents, and so you're doing a phenomenal job. Keep up the good work. Her brother is here as well, her friend, and her mother's friend is here, along with Principal Fry. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you Arlen Rain. Come on up, Arlen.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to speak to you on the topic, the map of reviving hope. Considering I am to speak on reviving hope, I first wanted to break down its exact meaning. As my generation does, I turned to the internet and started at Webster Dictionary. The first definition of revive is to return or restore to consciousness of life and become active again. The second definition is to restore from a depressed, inactive, or unused state. In other words, to simply bring back. This sounds similar to what we kept hearing post-COVID, when everything was trying to get back to normal, whatever normal was. In looking for examples of what revivement I came across the questions, why is depression often overlooked as a serious mental health problem? And how does social media addiction lead to negative body image issues and wrong perceptions? And as far as what are reasons students should consider becoming app developers? This search had taken me so far off course, I had to come back to the basics where I reviewed the life of Dr. Martin Luther King, who stated, "We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope." As I continue the search, the definition of hope meant to cherish a desire with anticipation, to want something to happen or be true, to desire with expectation of fulfillment, and to expect with confidence. At this point, I needed some confidence. So I looked to Michelle Obama, who said, "You should never view your challenges as a disadvantage. Instead, it's important for you to understand that your experience facing and overcoming adversity is one of your biggest advantages." To me, nothing about hope is set in stone, but a continuous path of optimism and positivity. This opened my mind. I had been so set on breaking down the words that I missed the meaning. Could I have been looking at it wrong? With that, my search stopped. Today, I come to you with no definite answer on how to revive hope, but I have found the comfort in living in infinite hope. We have all been in a situation in which an obstacle or event has left us feeling intimidated or even frightened. We all need courage and inspiration. Hope is how I first visualized my path, and at the end of this journey, I will have a map of infinite hope. Hope will remain because we are not lost. Thank you.
Aren't we so proud of Arlen? So, before you go out, first of all, thank you. And I want to present this certificate and gift on behalf of the Dr. Martin Luther King Scholarship Board the Crawford Central District, Allegheny College, FCCA, and all of our sponsors. You did a phenomenal job. Thank you for your work on this, and we appreciate you. Great work. Next, our next speaker. I would like to introduce Nicholas Michael Williams. All right, let's give it up for her one more time. Our next speaker I'd like to introduce to you, Nicholas Michael Williams. He is from the Meadville Senior High School where John Higgins is principal. Is Mr. Higgins in here today? No? He couldn't make it. Okay, he had an emergency. Nicholas Michael Williams is a senior, and he just enrolled in the Meadville area senior high school coming from Jersey Shore and the Jersey Shore High School outside of Williamsport, PA. Nicholas was the only black student out of a population of 1,600 students. Already, he is a leader at the Meadville area high school where he is at high academics, and also he is a member of the football team, track team, and a captain of both. So he is a leader in the making. Give him a hand for that. He plays wide receiver on the football team, and joining him tonight is his mother, Mrs. Williams, his grandmother, and Mrs. Barnes and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. Nicholas Michael Williams. Give it up.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to say thank you for having me up here for this great opportunity. Today we gather to reflect on the indescribable legacy of a man whose life became a beacon of hope in the darkest corners of injustice. Martin Luther King, in the tumultuous landscape of civil rights movement, he emerged of a voice that resonated beyond for his time, championing a vision that transcended racial boundaries and ignited flows of hope in hearts of millions. As we delve into a narrative of MLK's extraordinary life, it becomes evident that his journey was not a personal quest for equality, but a universal call to rediscover hope in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. Born into a segregated America, MLK faced the harsh realities of racial discrimination from an early age. Yet he refused to succumb to despair, choosing instead to wield the weapon of hope as he stepped onto the front lines of change. Martin Luther King's vision was not merely about dismantling the shackles of racial inequality. It was a dream for a society where character triumphs over color, where unity prevails over division. He articulated this dream in his historic I Have a Dream speech, delivered on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in 1963. In those powerful words, he painted a vivid picture of a future where individuals would be judged not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. However, MLK's journey was not one paved with ease. The road of justice was fraught with challenges, violent oppression, incarceration, and the weight of immense responsibility. Yet in the face of adversity, he clung tenaciously to hope. It was hope that fueled his commitment to nonviolent protest, hope that sustained him during the Montgomery bus boycott, and hope that resuscitated in the echoes of the March of Washington. As we stand here today, and decades after MLK's impassioned pleas for justice and equality, we found ourselves at a crossroad. The challenge we face may be different, but the essence of struggle remains. It is in this content that we rediscover hope, drawing inspiration from unwavering resolve of a man who believed that, despite the darkness, light could prevail. In the tapestry of our contemporary issues, racial inequality, social justice, and diverseness, we heed MLK's call to action. His legacy challenges us to be architects of hope, builders of bridges, and that span our differences and unite us in our shared humanity. Just as he confronted the pressing issue of his time, we are called to address the complexities of ours with courage and conviction. In conclusion, let us carry forward the torch of hope that Martin Luther King ignited, and let his words reverberate in our hearts, reminding us that in unity and in pursuit of justice and the unwavering belief that a better world is possible, we discover the enduring hope that sustains us through the challenges of today and guides us to a brighter tomorrow. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Williams. Phenomenal job, very well articulated. And also, I would like to direct the crowd to your feet. You have some amazing shoes that are on fire. Oh my God, they're red velvet shoes. Don't get no better than that. So on behalf of the Dr. Martin Luther King Scholarship Board, Crawford Central School District, the Allegheny College, FCCA, and our sponsors, I too would like to present you with this certificate of appreciation along with this gift. Sir, you did a great job and keep up the great work. We're thankful for your speech on tonight. Wow. We got some amazing youth in the making, don't we? Yeah. Let's give it up for both of them. We understand that time is of the essence, so we would like to move a little bit further into our program. I have the pleasure of introducing an amazing gentleman, Dominique. Some of the students know him as Dom Turner. And Dominique Turner is very special. He is the Associate Dean of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Allegheny College. In his role, he develops and implements strategies to support and retain students from historically underrepresented populations. Dom is a PhD candidate on top of all of the stuff that he does in higher education, administration program at Morgan State University, Lifeways of Hope Fellow, and with the Center for Religion and Community and Cities. As an interdisciplinary scholar, he researches historical development of church-related colleges and Black male scholar development. Dom is a proud first-generation student, a native of Prince George County, Maryland, and he earned both his master's degree in public administration and his undergrad degree in government from Bowie State College. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce none other, Bowie, I messed that up, my apologies. Bowie State College. I get a little happy, y'all forgive me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce none other than Associate Dean Dominique Dom Turner. Give him a hand.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not a huge fan of public speaking, and so I find that half the battle is making it to the podium without falling. To me, the hard part is over, but I'm very grateful for this opportunity to share some reflections on the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. So I wanted to thank Reverend Roberson for the invitation, and I want to give greetings to all of you all today. As I've grown older, I've started to develop an affinity for puzzles. I think Dean Roberson is probably tired of me talking about puzzles. I was in a meeting with President Cole where I started to talk a bit about puzzles. not that great at puzzles, but puzzles teach me. And so I realized that I stand here today as a puzzle. There are pieces that make up the whole Dom Turner, and one of the pieces that make up me, Dominique Turner, Vicky's son, Sheila's grandboy, is the Black church. So this moment is special to me. It's intimidating, and almost so intimidating, Reverend, that I almost said no. But I realize that I can't ask my students to do hard things if I shy away from these difficult moments. So students, I need some of y'all to take Math 140 again. I need some of y'all to take it for the first time. I'm doing hard things, so I expect you to do the same thing. But it's because of my affinity for the Black church that raised me, made me the person that I am today, that I felt like I needed to rise to this moment. And Dr. King's legacy is something that's always been ingrained in me. It shaped and guided the civil rights movement, but it also left an indelible mark on the world. His speeches and his actions continue to inspire the world and give us cause to pause and reflect every year to remember his legacy, but also to ensure that we hold ourselves accountable and that we hold our communities accountable as well. His messages of hope were rooted in his unwavering belief in the power of love, justice, and equality. He dreamed of a world where sense of belonging was widespread, genuine, and the world as Dr. King knew it, and the world as we know it today, ought to inspire hope in our heads and in our hearts. If nothing else, we should have hope for a better tomorrow, because the today that we have is better than the yesterday that was. But before I get to my story, I got a little story I want to tell. My dissertation chair would tell me to do, just like we heard earlier, come to terms, define the words that we're using. And since today's celebration is a rediscovery of hope, I got to talk about hope. And so let me try my hand at describing what hope is, at defining it, so to speak. Hope is a feeling that what is desired can actually be had. Hope is the feeling that things will turn out for the best. Hope says, I'm going to do better this semester because DT and Natalie won't have it any other way. Dean Roberson going to be on your head. Hope says, I will do better. As an aside, I'm also a Cowboys fan. Y'all did exactly what I thought y'all was going to do. And so Bills fans get it, but I, as a Cowboys fan, I've had my share of hope for a long time that went unanswered. And it went unanswered again for a playoff win. Y'all ain't got to be so harsh. Relax. I'm embarrassed enough to admit this. I can't even blame it on Tony Romo. Like, he's been a sports broadcaster for like the last 10 years. But as a Cowboys fan, I've experienced some hope and some hopelessness. But let me try again to identify what this term hope means. Maya Angelou might help us. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod on me in the dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. That's hope. Hope is powerful stuff, but hope also requires some work. Langston Hughes teaches us a bit about the responsibility of hope in his poem, where he tells us, or he raises the time-old question, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? Hope comes with responsibility. You have to actively care for hope. The story of MLK is indeed a story of hope. It's a story about the strength of unity. It's a story about the power of education. I stand like Dr. King, HBCU educated, but this story is also a story about the messiness of the human experience. It's a story about failure. But yes, it is indeed a story of hope. And I realize that I stand in a unique positionality, and I take for granted sometimes parts of this story because I've been privileged to learn some of the inner workings, some of the behind the scenes. Having been raised in Prince George's County, Maryland, modern day Wakanda to me, where I was honored to see the representation of what I could be as a black boy, black leaders in the community, black lawyers and doctors were commonplace to me. And I realized that there's some things about this story that I've heard all my life, because I heard elders sharing stories about they who walked with Dr. King and talked with him, and even those who were present in the crowd in some of his iconic moments. And one of the phrases that I'm familiar with, and we heard it demonstrated beautifully just a few moments ago, but one of the phrases I'm familiar with is because the elders will often talk about it, I have a dream. And there's a story behind that iconic moment, and that's what I'd like to leave you here with. If you're familiar with the Black church, you might have also heard the phrase, I won't be before you long. Natalie and Josh Guthrie did a program in Grounds for Change where they talked about not using that term triggered, but if there's a triggering phrase, it's I won't be before you long. So I'm getting out of your way. But it's important to know that the dream was something that Dr. King had mentioned to folks around him before. The dream was not just a rhetorical device or a random whim. The dream was not even a part of the slated remarks for that day. If you've seen the movie Rustin, it introduces us to the idea that the March on Washington was a messy affair. And the I Have a Dream speech fits so neatly within the messiness of that day because Dr. King was struggling in that speech. If you listen to it, you can tell that there's a shift from a certain moment to this dream, and that was prompted because close colleagues of Dr. King felt that it was good, but it wasn't as good as they expected from him on that day, on that stage. He was tanking. And over to the left, Mahalia Jackson says, tell him about the dream, Brother Martin. Dr. King shifted. And that reminder of his dream from someone he trusted shifted that moment. And there are some things I'd like to illuminate for us as lessons from that. You have to find people who you can trust your dreams with. Everybody can't be that person, but it's important that you find those who can. Jasmine, find people who you can trust with your dreams. Isaiah, find people who you can trust with your dreams. That's number one. Number two, it's important to have people in your corner who can hold you accountable. I hear Dean Roberson asking me, but how that disc coming? How many pages you got written in that dissertation? That's accountability, and I contend that accountability is one of those responsibilities of hope. And third, we are obligated to listen to the people we trust. When they offer a word of correction or inspiration, when they see us not at our best, we have to be accountable. We have to submit to them. And as always, Dean, I feel like I have more questions than answers. I'm on my way to my seat, but I'd offer, that's the second time. You know you're closing when you say it the second time. You got one more, but I have more questions and answers, and so I'd like us to just receive these questions. What is your dream? Natalie gave me this one. What are the steps to realizing your dream? That's number two. Who have you shared your dream or dreams with? Who has permission to hold you accountable when you've strayed from the path that is intended to lead you to the fulfillment of your dream? This may be the most important one. When you see a friend or colleague straying away from the peak of their potential, do you have the courage to speak up? Thank you for your time.
Give it up one more time for Dr. Dom. Trust your dreams. People, you can't trust everybody with your dream. Hold yourself accountable to people who can listen to your dream and hope in your dream. That's great words, great words. Let's give it up one more time for him. Next is a dear friend of mine. He traveled 2 hours to be with us through a snowstorm. He traveled through 5 feet of snow, car issues, but he's here. And so the reason why he's so important to me, because he's one of my dearest friends. The reason why I say that is because when I was in the hospital, he came and saw about me. When I was down on my sick bed, he looked after me. When I was going through some difficult times, this guy came and made sure that mentally I was in a good place. And so it's always good to have those friends, Dom, around you that will keep you going in difficult times. So as I say that, I'm not gonna go too deep with his piece here, but I'll read a few things from it. Pastor Jason Whitaker is from Buffalo, New York, a native, born to Elva and Robert Whitaker. If you know his parents, they're amazing people. He is the youngest of 6 children. He is also a twin. And at his first preaching engagement, he preached a message called "Stand for Something to Avoid Falling for Anything." Pastor Whitaker has been ordained and has been licensed in the Church of God of Tennessee since 2003. He obtained his highest credentials as an ordained bishop. Currently, Pastor Whitaker serves as the senior pastor of Emmanuel Temple Church of God, where the motto is transforming lives by transforming minds. He is also employed with the City of Buffalo and serves as executive director for the Commission on Citizens' Rights and Community Relations. He has earned his Master's of Theology from the Midwest College of Theology, a Bachelor's of Biblical Studies from the Midwest School as well, and he's just an amazing guy. And one other thing I would dare to say is that he is related to the late, great Sidney Poitier. Gentlemen, ladies, I'd like to introduce to you my friend, my brother, none other than Jason G. Whitaker. Give him a hand.
I greet you in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, humbled to be here. I must say, just before I get started and extend the love where it is due, the honor where it is due, is that my brother, Reverend Jack, know how to make things sound good, don't he? It wasn't quite 5 feet of snow, but it was somewhere near there, and I did have car trouble, had to turn back, so I do apologize for being tardy. But let me greet each and every one of you, everyone in their respective places. I will not be before you long, as Brother Dom says. And I mean that. I got a 2-hour ride to get back to Buffalo. But would you do something for me and just look at the person close to you and say, "It's so good to see you." Go ahead, look at somebody else and tell them, "It's so good to see you too." It's so... I don't know how you're feeling. Some of you may be a little overwhelmed with the outcome of certain things. We heard Brother Dom make reference to Dallas, Cowboys, being, yes, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up. Brother Dom, I love you, man. But Buffalo won, y'all. Buffalo, any Buffalo Bills in the house? Oh. Let me just get to my assignment. I hope to make it out of here. But again, let me thank again Dr. Heather Moore Robertson. Let's clap it up for her. Dr. Cole, I mean, everybody on here, everybody, that's somebody, including you. I don't mean no disrespect at all. I know the hour is late. I believe the Honorable Mayor is somewhere in the room as well here. God bless you. And each of you, everybody, the committee, the sponsors, everybody, look at the person next to you and say, you too, all of you. God bless you. Thank you so much. Again, I'm humbled and I'm delighted to be before you. As I was pondering on this theme, I took a moment to just reflect on the wording. And many of you, again, phenomenal speakers, everyone, our student speakers, everybody did phenomenal from what I was able to also hear, just phenomenal. And again, yes, this guy right here, clean. I almost got it right. I got the turtleneck. I just got to work on my shoe game. I'm gonna work on that. But every one of you, phenomenal. Let me get right to what I'm here to say and get out of your way. But our theme tonight, rediscovering hope. And as I thought about this, men and women of God as well, God bless you also. The immediate thought that came to mind in line with this theme is that hope was once discovered. And at one point or another, it had somewhat got out of reach. Somehow evaporated from the consciousness of those who have longed for or anticipated its arrival. I must also say this, man of God, I was blessed by you. I had goosebumps while you were speaking. This is how I do sometimes, just goosebumps, phenomenal. Just want to clap it up for you again. Amen. The hope that has somewhat left us in a state of abandonment, yielding, yearning, desiring for hope to once again return. I'm just sharing my thoughts. I'm gonna get right to it and get right out the way. I thought about it and I began to say, rediscovering. What must one rediscover? Especially in this day and hour as we reflect on Dr. King and his legacy, as he has spoken so profoundly and articulately, as he would share on many, many occasions what it took to live a better life. We already heard the definitions because in my generation we go to Webster sometimes as well. And rediscover means to discover something forgotten or ignored again. And can I suggest to you that the various vicissitudes in our lives have challenged us, have moved us to discover that in some seasons we have been brought to unspeakable joy and happiness only to eventually forget about it, ignore it, when the pressures of life have come, canvassing in, falling in upon us, leaving us to a state of wondering when my hope will return, my joy will return, my happiness will return. If I was in church, I would probably just tell you to tap your neighbor and tell your neighbor it'll be all right. Matter of fact, this is like that setting. Tap your neighbor and tell them it'll be all right. I just want to jump right into it and just talk to some of you because I know where we are. I know the theme. I know the season. But I want to also speak to where we are individually. That there are some pressures, some things that's weighing on us that's keeping us from performing the way we ought to perform, from doing what we ought to be doing, from keeping the dream alive, if you will. Things that put us into a space, into a state, if you will, that causes us to question if we're really making any kind of serious progress. People of God, I want you to understand that these are some difficult days, some very challenging days, that I think this theme was so fitting to ask us and to have us ponder and think about if there is a need to rediscover hope. And there is. Look at this dark day that we are currently living in and experiencing, and you think about if there has been, after all of what Dr. King did and all that he lived for and all that he had to endure even into his untimely death, if the time was wasted sometime, where you would see and you would know, and I get the picture where there were the locking of hands, where there was a song sung, "We Shall Overcome." And then you see generations later where there's a knee to the back of a man's head as he dies, calling on his mama. Are we making any progress? Where is the hope? Have we done enough? And the question is, we have not done enough. There's still so much more to do. And I come to tell you, people of God, that rediscovering hope is critical for not only this generation, but the generations to come. I appreciate you, Brother Don, for telling us how to be accountable, how to be able to set an example, if you will, for others to follow, for others to be able to say, yeah, that's how it's done. Because people, please believe me, we desire to do a whole lot, and we can't get it all done in our short time of being on this earth. As I got another funeral on the schedule tomorrow, one later on this week, one of the things I always say is we're here today and we're gone. Y'all heard that? We're gone today. That's right. So while we are here, we got work to do to restore hope, to bring peace, to bring joy, to lift up the spirits of everybody who we come in contact with. I'm actually speaking a little from the heart here because I'm not one to stick and be a hostage to my notes, but I'm going to give you a little something because for the sake of time, I don't want to belabor the moment. I don't want to belabor the time, but I want you to ponder on a couple of words that hope to build, even in the state on the subject of hope, that in Psalms 9:9-10, the Lord is a refuge to them that are oppressed and a stronghold in times of trouble. Isaiah 26:4 says, trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord God is an everlasting rock. 1 Chronicles 16:11 says, seek the Lord and his strength. Seek his presence continually. Why am I giving you that? I'm just trying to encourage you real quick before I get out of here. For the one who may need a little push, a little nudge, come on, would you bump your neighbor? Say, here, that's for you, that's for you. Go on, come on, I'm one of those, yeah, I'm one of those preachers. Talk back to me, talk back to me. That's just to give you a little something before I get out of here, because you may be going through something personally that you need ministering to. And I know sometimes we like to suffer in silence because, yeah, our hope has been displaced. I know we all got other things and we're literally looked to be able to hold somebody else up, to find ourselves in a position to say, can we do the great work that we're called to do, to get on the battlefield and fulfill what it is that God has called us to. Let me get right to the nitty-gritty of what it is I'm here to tell you, because what I come to understand that hope, as the Bible says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. Proverbs 13:12 says that, and I believe our nation has been sick for a while. Our community has been sick for a while. That there has been so much going on that made us feel good for the moment. And I know as we talk about the black church, we'll go to church to get the feel good, to get the encouragement, to get the oomph for the moment and for the journey to be able to make it through another week. But can we talk about what is going on in our life and in our society today? That when we look for and we understand that there is still so much that happens to discourage or battle our hope and causes us to feel like we're losing, if you will. Am I talking to anybody in here? Yeah. That my efforts are in vain sometimes. every good deed that I've done, every prayer that I prayed, every one that I tried to help, as Dr. King did, and then yet got a bullet after all of that hard work. And others who's striving and striving to do more and more, to find themselves seeming that as I made 5 steps, that everything that transpired may have pushed me back 100 steps. I came to encourage you that to not get weary while you're doing well. That you are still making a mark in ways that you cannot even begin to imagine. Let me tell you this, people of God, and get up out of the way. But hear this. That Dr. King, in one of his messages, let me try to get to Dr. King in his 1967 message at Stanford, spoke a speech entitled "The Other America." Dr. King speaks specifically of hope here. And he describes the other America in these words, and I quote. He says, there are literally 2 Americas. One America is beautiful. This America is overflowing with the milk of prosperity. He says, lost my space here. That's why I don't play with notes, y'all. 2 Americas. One America is beautiful. This America is overflowing with the milk of prosperity and the honey of opportunity. This America is the habitat of millions of people who have food and material necessities for their body, and culture and education for their minds, and freedom and human dignity for their spirits. And in this America, millions of young people grow up in the sunlight of opportunity. But tragically and unfortunately, there is another America. This other America has a daily ugliness about it in a way that constantly transforms the buoyancy of hope, our key word, and to the fatigue of despair. In this America, millions starve as men and women walk the streets daily, searching for jobs that do not exist. In this America, millions of people find themselves living in rat-infested, venom-filled slums. In this America, people are poor by the millions, and they find themselves perishing on a lonely island of poverty. End quote. According to the census of .gov, we find that there is a number of a great deal of people in poverty right now that is blowing your mind. 35 million still yet. We understand Dr. King was on the Poor People's Campaign ready to do that work, and yet that work still remains needful today. Not only that, let me get away from this and try to wrap this up. Not only is poverty still a concern, but racism is still a concern. Hatred is still a concern. Bigotry is still a concern. And in my line of work, I get these calls where we have to investigate and try to help people that make you feel like, as I said earlier, that we seem to not be making the progress when yet we still got police brutality. When there's still racism that's taking place, even the hidden racism that is so much a concern, because some of the people we look in the face with, some of the people we work with, some of the people we walk with, they're racist in their hearts. Come on, y'all, I gotta get quiet. It's the truth, whether you want to receive it or not. Let me get out of here, everybody, and tell you this is what I've seen and what I know personally, that even in Buffalo, New York, we had a white supremacist that came to our city, came to the black community. 2 days ago, before that happened, I was in that same top supermarket with my son at the age of 6 at that time. Shopping, doing what we would normally do, because that's normal stuff. Going to the supermarket to do what we need to do to just make sure we're good. It's understood that he was walking around in that same supermarket, disguising his hatred, getting to know the movements and the ways of those people from my community. 10 souls were snatched from us, 10 people, 6 of them I knew personally. The hatred that yet still remains, that causes us to feel like when we're going to the supermarket on a beautiful day like it was, that yeah, hope is real and I'm living it out. But soon as that happens, the hope is snatched away from you, causing you to reflect on the fact that there's still much work to do. And it causes us to get to a position to say, I hope, even after such a great meeting like this, where we celebrate the legacy of Dr. King, that you are moved with compassion that will cause you to say, what can I do to make this world a better place? And I'm not just talking about my brothers and sisters of color, but I'm also talking to my brothers and sisters of Caucasian descent. Because when you show up and you walk hand in hand with us, when you show up and you stand and you speak the same language, it speaks volumes that you are with us and you understand the struggle. I'm here to tell you, people of God, as I get ready to close and get out of here, that in the rediscovering efforts of what it is that needs to be done in a season like this, you need to gather all of what it is that makes you who you are. You are somebody of great value. You are somebody of great virtue. Certainly you understand that you've been made in the image of God. Do I got a witness out there? Made in the likeness of God. Made with dominion and authority. One who is just made a little lower than the angels. In other words, whether you recognize it or not, you got what it takes to make a difference. You got what it takes to be able to let others know around you that this will not stand. If there is wrong, I'm here to make it right. I hope you understand, people of God, that when you get to a position to recognize that the time that we're living in is time that's fading away. The Bible says a man that's born of a woman is of a few days and full of trouble. That we're only here for a limited amount of time, and we're here to deal with a whole lot of difficulties. I got to get out of here, but I want you to know this, people of God, that when you rediscover the hope, you then come to realize, even if you were distant and you were far away from fulfilling your purpose, however old you are, however old you've been doing, or however long you've been doing what you've been doing, please know, as long as you got breath in your lungs, there's still time to fulfill your God-given purpose. Come on and help me preach and bump your neighbor and say, you still got some time. Go ahead, talk to him. You still got some time. And I want you to understand this, that if you have been distant, this is a clarion call to get you to a position to say, now is the time for you to recognize and come to yourself. Every time I think of that statement, coming to yourself, I think of the prodigal son who went to his daddy and said, Daddy, give me my inheritance before it's time. That word prodigal means wasteful, and he lived it out to fulfillment. Once he wasted all that he could, or all that he had. I'm wrapping up right now. I see you slow walking me. But when he wrapped it up, I'm in my clothes now. When he wrapped it up, when he came to his place, he came to a place to recognize that my life was better than this. And then he said, my life is, in essence, when he came to himself, this is the Jason Whitaker translation, that my life is better than this. In other words, he rediscovered himself. He came to that place of recognizing that I'm better and I need to get back to where I need to be so I can be positioned where I can be held accountable. I can be positioned around other people that know me, that respect me, that love me, and can help me not only rediscover others, but also share the fact that I discovered myself so I can be able to help others discover the needed hope. Help them to embrace the hope and then share that hope. And I need you to also understand, as I get out of here, that once you discover the hope, embrace the hope, that you share the hope. Once you discover that hope, embrace that hope, and then share that hope, you got to now then begin to live it out for others to recognize that I've come to a place that God has not only anointed me for such a time as this. You may not even know it. You may not even recognize it. But God has called you. Bump your neighbor one last time and say, God called you. He saw you for who you are. He made you for such a time as this. I need to get out of here, everybody. But in the words of our great leader, Jesse Jackson, after you find hope, you embrace hope, and
up one more time for Reverend Jason Whitaker and Dom Turner. Stand to your feet. Why not? All right, no one's there. So now, we're closing. We're closing. I feel like I should have a tithe basket here to pass around for what we just experienced. But we always like to say that in Meadville we have our own version of Black history in the life and the presence of Dr. Armindia Dixon. And so Dr. Dixon, Dr. Dixon will provide our closing remarks in this lovely pink binder. All right. Yes, it's Founders Day.
Good evening, everyone. And what a great evening it is. I will appreciate your cooperation in my closing remarks by standing when I call your name or cite your involvement. You may need to stand more than once. I count it a privilege and an honor to say thank you. So here I go. Thank you, Dr. Heather Roberson, Dean of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Thank you for your witty way of steering us through this unforgettable program sponsored by the Meadville Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Board, Allegheny College, and the Crawford Central School District. Again, Dr. Roberson. What best way to be greeted here this evening than by Dr. Ron Cole, president of Allegheny College. Last year at Dr. King's birthday celebration, Dr. Cole, who is deeply rooted in Allegheny College, the Meadville community, and Crawford County, said to me after the event, "You know, Allegheny College is the perfect venue for Dr. King's birthday celebration. And I want the scholarship board to know that our doors will stay open for this event." So here we are once again, and it is a perfect place. Thank you, Dr. Cole. Dr. Cole is leading the college in a vibrant and inclusive culture for students, faculty, and staff. Will all those who work at the college and go to school here please stand? Now, please stand. Wow. All right. Thank you. All right. As Meadville citizens, we are also proud to be Crawford Countyans. We know that we are in good hands with Commissioner Eric Henry, Scott T. Shell, and Christopher R. Seeley. And you should meet the host of dedicated employees with whom they work. I was fortunate this year to attend the swearing-in ceremony, and it was wonderful to see all those people dedicated to our welfare. Will our commissioners and other county staff please stand at this time? Commissioner Seeley, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Seeley. Mayor Jamie Kendra, thank you for the proclamation and for your leadership in our city government. We thank City Council, our city manager, Mrs. Mary Ann Menino, and those we elected to city government for joining hands with all of us to make for the continuation of a great Meadville. Will you and all Meadville city government representatives please stand? Thank you. Thank you. Wow. All right. All right. We are excited tonight that we get a chance to say congratulations and thank you to our new superintendent of the Crawford Central School District, Dr. Jennifer Golden. Dr. Golden. You know, she's our first female superintendent. All right. You know, this is exciting for us because the NAACP Education Committee, faculty representatives from Allegheny College and other community leaders had the opportunity to work with Dr. Thomas Washington, Dr. Jennifer Galden, and Dr. Ann Noonan on the district's comprehensive plan that will take us through the year 2028. We can't wait to roll out this plan to the community. Thank you, Dr. Galden. Will Dr. Galden, Crawford Central School District Board members, principals, Mr. Jonathan Fry and Mr. John Higgins, please stand. All right. Thank you. And members of the comprehensive planning team, will you stand? I see community members. Okay. Wow. Okay. Last year, we heard a choir of over 20 students from 2nd District Elementary School under the direction of Mrs. Tracy Balsamo. The choir could have easily performed in Carnegie Music Hall in New York City. Tonight, we heard Mrs. Balsamo and Brooke Hoagie, her student from Sagertown High School, as they provided the music. Thank you, Mrs. Balsamo. And Brooke, will you stand? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Sylvia Reed, pastor of United Faith Fellowship Church of God, for bringing the invocation. You know, who gets the opportunity to hear a pastor who hails from Hollywood, California, who comes bearing words of hope? Have you noticed that wherever she goes, the members of her church follows her like a rock star? Thank you, Reverend Reed. Stand. Okay. And thank you to the members of our church. Will you stand? Okay. See? You know, the meal was delicious. Soul food and all by Advanced Catering. Thank you for the ethnic food we all enjoy. Let's give them a hand. You know, how many of us stayed glued to our TV August 28, 1963, to hear Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. deliver his I Have a Dream speech to over 250,000 people from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial? And a few people in Meadville traveled to be there and participate as up-close listeners. We know of one listener who memorized that speech and who lives that speech each day of his life. This is none other than Reverend Marvin Burnett. What an incredible memory. What an incredible memory. You know, I must share with you something you may not know, but Dr. Reverend Burnett has a repertoire of poems for all occasions that he recites by memory. Thank you, Reverend Burnett. And I would like for your family to stand, and church members, will you stand? All right. Arlen Rain Jordan, our speaker from the 8th grade at MAMS, honestly and beautifully shared with us that hope is a continuous path of optimism and positivity. Thank you, Arlen Rain, and thank you to your mother, Mrs. Sasha Jordan, other family members, friends, and Principal Mr. Jonathan Fry for joining us tonight. Will you stand, please? Nicholas Michael Williams, our speaker from the senior class at MASH, recognized the complex issues and divisive rhetoric in our society today. And he asked us to embrace the transformative power of hope, as Dr. King suggested. Thank you, Nicholas. And we thank your mother, your grandmother, your friends, and your principal. Will you stand, please? Family, stand. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Turner. I tell you, I learned so much from you tonight. I'm sure we all did. But when you talked about Mahalia Jackson, who was the queen of gospel, who said to Dr. King, get it together. Tell about your dream. And I suggest that we're all going to talk about our dream because of your speech. Will you stand, please? Thank you. Thank you. And you know, Pastor Jason Whitaker isn't just the friend of our dear MC tonight and her dear husband. He's also a friend of Buffalo, where my family lives. And when he talked to you tonight, he didn't tell you that he's every day on the firing line for justice. Every day, he's visiting people in the community. He's checking on what is happening. He's bringing people together, and things are happening in Buffalo, New York. And we are glad that he came tonight to share that story. So let's give him a big hand and a safe send-off. Thank you to the media in our area. You know, we brag about how ethical our media is. We thank Armstrong Cable, Cool 101.7, Seven Mountain Media, and the Meadville Tribune. You know, they're here, and they share in our history, and they tell it in an objective way. They are part of the team of bringing us all together. With those from the Meadville media, Mr. Termini, Mr. Crawford, stand, please. We want to recognize you. Thank you. Don't let me miss any media.
The campus.
The campus, that's right. The campus editor, yes. Thank you. Mr. James Sherrod, are you still here? Yes. Executive Director of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Center in Erie, Pennsylvania, is with us tonight. You know, I was with them this past weekend for their Dr. King birthday celebration. It was wonderful. And he said to me, I'm going to see you at the Meadville celebration because we enjoyed it so much last year that it is on our calendar to attend each year. Mr. Sherrod, will you stand, please? Thank you. Our sponsor for the Dr. King dinner tonight is Meadville Forging Company. And I'm sure you know what value it brings to our community because they offer a complete line of services, quality tool and closed die, steel forging and CNC machinery. It's a quality company like we have in Meadville. So I want to thank them for being our first sponsor. So let's give them a round of applause. And if there is anybody here from that company, you know, I'd certainly like for us to know. Okay, but what does this mean? I think you get the hint. Next year, we want some more sponsors. So we so firmly believe that this is a beloved community where churches, organizations, and our citizens are all coming together to affirm our commitment to love and care about each other. Each year when I speak at the Unitarian Church on the Sunday before Dr. King's birthday, and I get a chance to work with my dear friend and pastoral leader, Mrs. Karen Schreiber Mason, I highlight the many ways we are working in Meadville to demonstrate the power of the human spirit to triumph over justice, inequality, suffering, to triumph over racism. And I want to know, if you're here tonight and you are a part of that team of triumphing over justice, inequality, and suffering, will you please stand? And I know that's everybody, right? All right. Woo. All right. All right. Thank you. Wow. Long before we get to the dinner, there's a group of Allegheny College staff working in the background to ensure the success of the dinner. That includes ticket sales, ground safety, technical assistance, and setup. Much of the coordination takes place under the supervision of Mrs. Lynn McManus Harlan, who is surrounded by a warm and friendly chef and Aramark staff. Will you please stand at this time? I hope they're still here. All right. All right. The dinner's legal entity is the Meadville Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Board. The members are Dr. Nancy Smith, and if you're here, please stand. Mr. Joe Galbo, Reverend Melissa Burnett, Mrs. Mary Lynn Maury, I think she had to leave, and Mrs. Tracy Balsamo. Mrs. Heather Curtis, Reverend Jackie Roberson, Mr. Jim Fields, and Mr. Lon Wilson. Thank you so much for being the legal entity. In closing, I am so pleased to introduce the 2024 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday Celebration Committee, chaired by the most energetic, talented, and hardworking person I know in Meadville, a person who has learned to put on his walking shoes, not those shoes that you had on, to put on his walking shoes to go throughout the Meadville community to meet and work with us all. He is none other than Reverend Jackie Roberson. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Serving with him on this committee are Mrs. Tracy Balsamo. Will you please stand when I call your name? Attorney Samantha Blount, Miss Natalie Brown, Miss Ann Butcher, Reverend Melissa Burnett, Professor Jennifer France, Ms. Janelle Harris, and Dr. Heather Roberson. Oh my goodness, we forgot Dr. Nancy Smith. Will you say hello and clap hands for this committee? You know, let's applaud each other as we go forth. As Nicholas Michael Williams said, let hope guide our action, fuel our determination, and unite us to the pursuit of an ideal world. May we stand and end the evening with the national anthem by James Weldon Johnson, played by Mrs. Balsamo. Let's stand, please. The words to the national anthem are on your program.